Hiring the right salesperson is critical to any organization. But here's what we know. Hiring the wrong person accounts for more than 80% of turnover in organizations today. What happens? It costs us money, it costs us client satisfaction, and creates potential morale issues on your team. So what do we do? Well, I think there's a lot of things we could do, but we've got to focus at least on these three. Number one, we've got to make sure as sales leaders, when we're recruiting, we're not confusing confidence for sales drive. Confidence is important, but easily faked in an interview. What we've got to make sure we're looking at is this concept of sales drive, which in and of itself has three separate components. Number one is we've got to look for the need for achievement. Asking questions like, how do you know when you've succeeded? Or even a better one is asking the question, what was the biggest goal you've put on yourself and how are you going to top that? The need for achievement is critical in every salesperson. Number two in this idea of sales drive is competitiveness. That's key to any good salesperson. Asking a question of, tell me about that one client that you're really excited about in being able to close. Competitiveness is what we need in every sales individual to be successful. And the third piece to this idea of sales drive is optimism. Tell me about a time tell me your experience with the longest sales process that you've actually ever dealt with. How did you respond during that sale? Do they get excited about that particular sales process? Do they have an optimistic look? Look, number one, we cannot confuse confidence with sales drive. And number two, when interviewing sales candidates for your organization, we need to make sure that that proven experience is relevant to your specific organization. For example, if what they're selling is an established product with a short sales cycle, and what you need is somebody to sell a new product with a long sales cycle, how relevant is that experience? Or they're selling a product, and in your organization, it's a service, an intangible, where the sales process is more about education than it is a close. We've got to make sure that the experience we're looking for, number two, is relevant to what they're going to be selling for your organization. And number three is increasingly critical, and that's using data to determine what candidates will be successful specifically in your organization. For example, we all assume that extroversion is a characteristic of a sales candidate that we all need. But here's what we know through the data. That's not true. In your organization, maybe an introvert is better suited for selling because it takes deeper relationships as opposed to broader relationships. Uncovering the specific characteristics, the specific competencies based on data tied to performance in your organization is critical. Here in our organization, we use a tool called Perception Predict, which helps us identify not only the characteristics that are tied to success in our organization, but the characteristics that have an adverse effect or a negative correlation to success in our organization. It avoids us hiring somebody that has the 3 or 4 competencies we need, but picking up the 3 or 4 competencies in our organization that spells disaster. Hiring the right salesperson today is absolutely difficult. But if we follow these 3 principles, number 1, let's not confuse confidence with sales drive. Number 2, let's make sure that the proven experience that we're interviewing for is relevant. And number 3, ensure that you're using data to make sure we're hiring the right people. Following these 3 principles will put you as the sales leader, business leader, in the driver's seat of a declining turnover and hiring salespeople that actually perform in your organization.